I went to surprise my CEO husband at work. The guard said, "I see his wife every day. There she is right now." I want you to imagine standing at the front desk of a gleaming corporate tower, holding a warm bag of your husband's favorite takeout, feeling proud, feeling romantic, feeling like the luckiest woman in the building. And then a stranger in a security uniform looks at you with pity and says the 6 words that end your marriage without either of you realizing it yet. That's exactly what happened to me. And by the time I walked back out through those glass doors, I wasn't the same woman who walked in. Let me back up. I'd spent the whole morning planning it. Nothing fancy, just a surprise visit to my husband's office, lunch from his favorite Italian place, the kind of small gesture that says, "I see you. I'm thinking about you after 28 years of marriage." 28 years. That number is going to matter a lot in the next 20 minutes, so hold on to it. I pulled up to the headquarters of Meridian Technologies, the AI logistics company my husband Nolan had built from a struggling startup into a $200 million machine. There, right at the entrance, was a laminated sign, "Authorized personnel only." I almost laughed. 28 years married to the man whose name was on the building, and I still needed a laminated sign to remind me I technically wasn't authorized. I told the young woman at the security desk I was the CEO's wife. Simple enough, right? Instead, she smiled, not unkindly, just confused, and said something that I will hear in my head for the rest of my life. "Ma'am, I see his wife here every single day. In fact, there she is right now." She pointed toward the lobby. A woman was crossing the marble floor in a razor-sharp charcoal suit, the kind that costs more than my first car, moving with the kind of confidence you can't fake. Early 40s. An expensive watch flashing in the afternoon sun. The kind of woman who looks like she stepped off a magazine cover, not out of an elevator. The guard actually called out to her. "Miss Sterling, your husband's still wrapping up his 3 o'clock, should be about 20 more minutes." Her husband. I stood there frozen, still holding a paper bag of pasta, watching this woman, Ren Sterling, according to her badge, nod like this was a completely ordinary Tuesday and head toward the elevators. Here's the thing about shock. It doesn't always look like screaming or crying. Sometimes it just feels like your heart forgetting its rhythm, not racing, just stuttering, stalling, restarting, like an old engine that doesn't want to turn over anymore. 28 years. I had been married to this man for 28 years, and apparently, somewhere along the way, he'd picked up a second wife at the office. Every instinct in my body wanted to march over there, plant myself in front of this woman, and demand to know exactly what she thought she was doing calling herself my husband's wife. But something, call it instinct, call it 30 years of professional composure kicking in, told me to hold still, to watch, to listen. So instead, I turned back to the guard, kept my voice perfectly level and said, "You know, I think I've got the wrong building. I'm actually looking for Coratech Pharmaceuticals." She blinked. "But you said you were Mr. Sterling's wife." I said I was a family friend. Cora. Must have mixed up my buildings, long day. I forced a laugh that felt like sandpaper in my throat. Then I set the takeout bag down on her desk. "Could you just make sure Nolan gets this? Tell him Cora dropped it off." She shrugged like it was nothing. I walked out of that building on legs that didn't feel like mine anymore. Let me tell you who Nolan was to me, or who I thought he was. We met at 23. I was fresh out of school with an accounting degree. He was finishing his MBA, already talking about 5-year plans like other people talk about weekend plans. He was magnetic. Driven. The kind of man who didn't just dream big, he actually executed. And me? I was the steady one. The one who balanced the checkbook, kept the house running, made sure the mortgage was paid on time every single month so he could take risks at work without worrying about what was happening at home. He used to tell me I was his foundation, that he could gamble on his career because he knew I'd keep everything else standing still. And he climbed. Director at 30. VP by 35. CEO of Meridian Technologies at 43. He turned that company into a $250 million operation in under a decade, and I cheered every single milestone from the sidelines, the late nights, the endless business trips, the weekends buried in spreadsheets instead of spent with me. That's what you do for someone you love. You hold the door open for their ambition. We never had kids. Nolan didn't want them, said they'd slow down his trajectory. I grieved that quietly for a while and then made peace with it, telling myself his career was our shared project. I thought I understood the deal we'd made. I did not understand the deal we'd made. Now here I was, sitting in the Meridian parking lot, white-knuckling the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Ren Sterling, Nolan's VP of Operations. I'd met her exactly once, at a holiday party 2 years earlier, tall, sharp, magnetic in her own right. Nolan had introduced her to me as one of my rising stars, and then spent the rest of the night deep in conversation with her while I made small talk with the other spouses in the corner. I hadn't thought twice about it. Why would I? Trust doesn't come with an expiration date warning. But the guard hadn't said girlfriend. Hadn't said colleague. She'd said wife. I couldn't bring myself to go home. Not yet. Not to the house I'd spent the whole morning cleaning, where a pan of lasagna, his favorite, was sitting in the fridge, where I'd been quietly planning to surprise him next month with Hamilton tickets for our anniversary. Instead, I drove 3 blocks to a coffee shop and sat in a corner booth with a coffee I never touched. My phone buzzed at 6:47 p.m. working late again. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at those 2 words, love you, for what felt like an eternity. Did he? Or had I simply become the safety net underneath his real life, the one who quietly funded the mortgage while he built something else on the side? I typed, deleted, retyped a dozen replies before landing on something harmless. There's lasagna in the fridge. 3 dots. Gone. Back. You're the best. See you tonight. I set the phone face down and reminded myself how to breathe. Nolan walked in at 11:23 that night. I was curled on the couch pretending to read. I'd been staring at the same page for 3 straight hours. Hey. He dropped his bag by the door, hair a little mussed, collar loosened, and I noticed it instantly, the faint trace of perfume that wasn't mine. How was your day? Fine, I said, and my voice came out disturbingly normal. How was yours? Exhausting. Back-to-back meetings, board presentation at 4, then ran, and I had to dig through the Q3 numbers. He wandered into the kitchen. Did you say there was lasagna? I listened to the microwave hum, the fridge open and close, the small domestic sounds of a man existing in a home that suddenly felt like a stage set. I actually stopped by your office today, I said casually when he sat back down with his plate. Brought you lunch. His fork paused midair. Just a half-second hesitation. 28 years of marriage teaches you to catch things like that. You did. Missed you. Gave the food to Ren Sterling instead. Figured she'd pass it along. Oh. Another bite. Another swallow. She didn't mention it. Busy day, I guess. Yeah. Very busy. He smiled at me, the exact smile I fell in love with at 23. There wasn't a single crack in it. How's Ren? I asked, testing. Great. Best VP I've ever worked with. We're really in sync. In sync. I let that phrase sit in the air like smoke. We finished the evening like any ordinary married couple, him eating reheated lasagna, me pretending to read, except nothing about that night was ordinary anymore. I waited until he was asleep. Nolan always crashed hard. Years of caffeine and adrenaline had trained his body to shut off like a light switch the second his head hit the pillow. By midnight, he was gone. I went into his study. The door had never been locked. Why would it be? I was his wife. He trusted me completely. His laptop sat there, closed but not locked. I knew the password. It was our wedding date. I typed it in, hands trembling slightly, feeling like a burglar in my own house. His inbox was already open, thousands of unread messages. I didn't know where to start, so I opened his calendar instead. At first, everything looked mundane. Meetings, board calls, conferences. But then a pattern began to surface. Dinner with W, 7 p.m. Il Posto. That was 2 weeks earlier. Il Posto wasn't a business dinner kind of place. Candlelit tables, live piano, the sort of restaurant you take someone you're trying to impress romantically. Then, a weekend retreat at Grand Geneva Resort from the previous month. $450 a night for the suites. He told me it was a leadership conference. I checked the corporate card statements. 2 rooms booked. 1 later canceled. 1 room. 2 people. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. I kept digging. More dinners. More weekend trips. A pattern stretching back nearly 3 years, and in every single entry, coded under vague corporate language, was Ren Sterling's name. I shut the laptop and walked to the bedroom doorway, just watching him sleep. He looked so peaceful. So innocent. I had trusted this man without a shred of doubt for almost 3 decades, and he'd apparently been lying to me for 3 of those years without blinking. The next morning, I called in sick, first time in 6 years. I worked as a senior accountant downtown, a steady, unglamorous job that had never made for exciting party conversation, but had quietly kept our household afloat. After Nolan left, kissing my forehead, telling me to feel better, I tore through every drawer, every file box, every corner of his study. Tucked in the back of his desk, inside an old, never-opened watch box, I found a single silver key. No label, just a keychain tag with an address. Harbor View Apartments. Unit 214. I knew the building. 30 stories of floor-to-ceiling glass in River North, the kind of place where studios started at $2,500 a month. My hands were shaking on the drive over. In the parking garage, space 214 held a black Mercedes SUV. I recognized it instantly, Ren Sterling's car, the one I'd seen 100 times in the Meridian lot. I took the elevator up, found the door. The key fit perfectly. It wasn't a rental. It was a home. Hardwood floors, tasteful furniture, fresh flowers on the coffee table, his cologne, the expensive one he only wore on special occasions, hanging in the air like a confession. Photos sat framed on the mantel. Nolan and Ren on a beach. At a restaurant. On a hiking trail. And in every single one, he wasn't wearing his wedding ring. I walked through that apartment like I was moving underwater. 2 coffee mugs on the counter. 2 sets of dishes in the cabinets. In the bedroom, his shirts hung next to her dresses, his shoes lined up beside hers, arranged like they'd been living there together for years. Like a real marriage. On the dresser sat a manila folder labeled, in his own handwriting, Future Plans. I opened it. Real estate listings, Evanston, Oak Park, Wilmette, all in the $800,000 to $1.2 million range, circled in pen. Notes in the margins. Good schools, close to Ren's parents, love this kitchen. Travel brochures for Santorini, Tokyo, New Zealand, honeymoon destinations, clearly. And underneath it all, legal documents. Consultation notes from 3 separate divorce attorneys, dated 18 months earlier. He'd been shopping around for the best deal against me. The notes were clinical, strategic, cold. Frame as irreconcilable differences. Cite Cora's lack of ambition and emotional distance. Document instances of failure to support career growth. Pages and pages of evidence. Every ordinary friction point of a real marriage, the nights I asked him to skip an event, the times I didn't want to talk shop over dinner, the fact that I was content with my own quiet career, twisted into a legal case against me. The most recent note was dated 3 weeks earlier. File for divorce by January. Finalized by June. Wedding with W by Christmas. He had the entire thing timelined out like a corporate roadmap. My replacement was already half moved into their future life. Their dream house was already picked out. I was simply a line item scheduled for removal. I photographed everything. Every page. Every framed photo. Every damning line. Then I sat down on their couch, in their secret apartment, in their secret life, and let it sink in that my 28-year marriage had been quietly dying for at least 3 of those years. I drove for hours after that. No destination. Just needed the motion. At 3:47, my phone rang. Nolan. I let it die into voicemail. He called again at 4:15. Then 4:32. Then a text, "Where are you? Feeling better?" I didn't answer any of it. Around 6, I finally listened to the voicemails he'd left. His voice cracked with what sounded like real panic. "Cora, I'm getting worried. You're not picking up. I'm about to start calling hospitals. Please, just call me back." The concern sounded so real. He was good at this. Terrifyingly good. I called him back. "Oh, thank God," he said instantly. "Where have you been?" I was losing my mind. "Just driving. Clearing my head. I'm fine." "You scared the hell out of me. You coming home?" Home. What a joke that word had become. "Yeah. I'll be there soon." "Good. I'll grab Thai on the way, your favorite." He still remembered my favorite food. Still performed every small, tender detail of a marriage he was quietly dismantling behind my back. That night we sat at our dining table and ate pad thai while he told me about some crisis with a difficult board member, and I nodded in all the right places, playing the role of devoted wife while knowing, down to the month, exactly when he planned to leave me for someone else. Later, curled together on the couch watching a movie, his head on my shoulder like he'd done 1,000 nights before, he said, quietly, "Cora, are we okay? You seem distant." Distant. That exact word, lifted straight from his divorce notes. "I'm fine," I said. "Just still not feeling great." He squeezed my hand. "Let me know if you need anything." I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, formulating my next move. The next morning, I called in sick again. The second his car pulled out of the driveway, I went straight back into his study, except this time, I knew exactly what I was looking for. I'd spent 22 years as an accountant. Finding financial holes was, quite literally, my profession. Our joint checking account showed both our paychecks landing right on schedule, mine, around $6,000 a month after taxes, his, around $11,000. Our household expenses, mortgage, groceries, utilities, insurance, totaled roughly $8,500 a month. Which meant, on paper, we should have been saving close to $8,700 every single month. Over 3 years, that should have added up to well over $300,000. Our actual savings balance? $47,000. So where had roughly $250,000 disappeared to? I pulled his personal credit card, the one he always claimed was strictly for reimbursed business expenses. And there it was, laid out in cold, undeniable numbers. Harborview Apartments, $3,200 a month, times 3 years, over $115,000. Furniture from West Elm and Pottery Barn, $24,000. Luxury travel, $31,000. And an avalanche of charges at high-end restaurants stretching back years. He had been funding an entire second life with our money. My money. While I drove a 10-year-old Civic and reheated leftovers for dinner, he was playing house in a $3,200 a month apartment on my dime. I downloaded 3 years of statements, bank records, credit card history, investment transfers. Then I pulled up Meridian Technologies' internal filings, and here's where my accounting brain really lit up, because the story hiding in those numbers was even worse than the affair. Nolan had been quietly restructuring the company, without board approval, to position Ren Sterling as his eventual successor, redirecting resources into her division, handing her control of major accounts, grooming her for a COO role that didn't even officially exist yet. He was building her a golden staircase to the top of a company he wasn't authorized to give away, using shareholder resources to fund a personal relationship. That wasn't just betrayal anymore. That was fraud. I screenshotted everything, organized it, built a full timeline. And then I picked up the phone and called Richard Calloway, chairman of Meridian's board of directors, a retired hedge fund executive I'd met exactly twice at company functions. "Cora Hartman," I said. "Nolan's wife. I have some concerns about the company I think you need to see today." There was a long pause on the line. "I can be there in 2 hours." Richard arrived precisely on time, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. I made coffee. We sat in my living room, the same room where Nolan and I had celebrated anniversaries and watched 1,000 ordinary movie nights, a room that suddenly felt like nothing more than a set piece in someone else's script. I walked him through it all. The apartment, the photos, the divorce planning documents, the financial trail, the unauthorized restructuring. His face got darker with every folder I opened. "He's redirected capital budgets without board sign-off," he muttered, scrolling through the filings, specifically towards Sterling's department. He looked up at me. "They're having an affair. They're living together part-time," I said. "He's planning to divorce me, marry her by Christmas, and he's been quietly handing her the company on his way out the door." Richard sat back, visibly stunned. "That's an enormous conflict of interest. He has a fiduciary duty to this board, to every shareholder in that building." He stood up. "I need to call an emergency meeting. Do you have copies of all this?" I handed him a USB drive loaded with everything: statements, filings, photographs, the full timeline. "I'm sorry for what he's put you through personally," he said before he left. "But thank you. If this had gone unchecked much longer, the damage to this company could have been catastrophic." "I'm not doing this for revenge," I told him. It was only half true. "I'm doing it because it's the truth, and I'm done pretending I can't see what's right in front of me." Nolan came home early that night, 6:15, an hour ahead of schedule. One look at his face told me the board meeting had already happened. You called Richard Calloway, he said, voice shaking with fury. My own wife is trying to destroy my career. I kept stirring dinner and didn't turn around. I shared some information the board deserved to have. You went through my private files. Your private files, in the apartment you were funding with our joint account. He grabbed my arm and spun me toward him. This is different. This is my professional reputation. And sleeping with your VP while quietly restructuring the entire company to benefit her career, that's professional too? His face drained of color. What do you want? Money? The house? What? I don't want anything from you, Nolan. You set this whole thing in motion 3 years ago. I'm just refusing to keep playing the fool while you finish executing your plan. What plan? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos from the apartment. The folder labeled future plans. His face in every frame. This one. Divorce me by January. Marry Ren by Christmas. Move into your dream house in Evanston and live happily ever after. He sank into a kitchen chair. How did you? I found the key to your other life, Nolan. 28 years. I supported every late night, every trip, every sacrifice, because I loved you, because I believed we were building something together. We were. No. You were building an exit strategy. And I was the one funding it. He actually started crying real tears, not the practice kind. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. How exactly did you mean for it to happen? Before or after the divorce papers were filed? Silence answered that question better than any words could have. I turned off the stove, grabbed my keys. Where are you going? He asked. A hotel. You'll have divorce papers by Monday. Wait. There's nothing left to say. You made your choice years ago. I'm just finally catching up to it. I filed that Monday, with an attorney named Jennifer Kowalski, 23 years of family law experience. When she reviewed my evidence, she actually whistled. This, she said, is one of the cleanest cases of marital misconduct I have ever seen. The secret apartment, the financial trail, the documented plan to leave you. You're going to do very well here. I don't care about doing well, I told her. I just want out. You should still care, she said. He used marital funds to finance an affair. That's financial infidelity, and Illinois courts take it seriously. That same afternoon, the board met. Richard called me that evening with the outcome. Ren Sterling had been terminated, effective immediately. Nolan was placed on administrative probation, his authority stripped pending a full investigation, and the company had brought in forensic accountants to audit everything, with the possibility of criminal referral if fraud was confirmed. He built an entire house of cards, Richard told me. Cora, you just knocked it down. Nolan called that night. I was in a hotel near the airport eating cold takeout and half watching ESPN. You've destroyed everything, he said, sobbing. Ren lost her job. The board's investigating me. My career is finished. How could you do this? How could I? My voice came out ice cold. You spent 3 years planning my replacement. You siphoned $250,000 out of our joint account to fund your affair. You committed corporate fraud to benefit your girlfriend. And you're asking how I could do this. I was going to tell you, he said. After I filed. After Ren and I got married. I already know everything, Nolan. The apartment. The lawyers. The house listings. All of it. Please, he begged. We can fix this. I'll end it with Ren. We'll go to counseling. Anything. Ren already lost her job because of you, I said, and now you're ready to abandon her too? At least be consistent about who you betray. That's not fair. Fair? I actually laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? You spent 28 years earning my trust just so you could execute the perfect betrayal. You documented every small disagreement as legal ammunition against me while I was cooking your dinners and doing your laundry and cheering for your promotions. I loved you. No, you loved what I provided. Stability. Security. A foundation to stand on while you built your empire somewhere else. And the second someone better suited your 5-year plan came along, you started drafting my removal. He was sobbing openly now. Please, Cora. 28 years has to mean something. It did, I said. Past tense. You killed it the day you picked up the key to Unit 214. I hung up. He called 6 more times that night. I blocked his number for good. The divorce took 4 months. Nolan fought it at first, but Jennifer was right. The evidence spoke for itself. I kept the house. He kept his car and whatever was left of his reputation. Every single dollar of the $250,000 he'd funneled into that apartment came straight back out of his half of the settlement, accounted for, line by documented line. The board's investigation confirmed what I already knew. Nolan had violated his fiduciary duty, restructuring the company to benefit a personal relationship rather than the shareholders who trusted him. He was forced to resign in March. No golden parachute. No generous exit package. Just gone. The forensic audit turned up everything I'd found and more. The file was handed straight to the board's attorneys to weigh possible criminal charges. Ren Sterling sued Meridian for wrongful termination. It was dismissed almost immediately. Turns out sleeping with the CEO while quietly benefiting from unauthorized corporate restructuring tends to qualify as a fireable offense in every courtroom that matters. I heard they broke up about 3 months after everything collapsed. She blamed him for wrecking her career. He blamed her for not being worth what he'd sacrificed. Neither one of them, as far as I know, ever took responsibility for the choices they made. He spent 28 years letting me hold his entire life steady so he could gamble everything else on the side. He mapped out an entire future, down to the honeymoon destination, without me in it. He just forgot one small detail about the life he was so eager to trade in. I'm the one who reads the numbers. If a story like this hit close to home for you, if you've ever felt that gut drop moment of realizing someone you trusted completely was living a whole other life, drop a comment below and let me know where you'd have gone first, the apartment, or straight to a lawyer. And if you want more real stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because trust me, this one is far from the wildest betrayal I've got for you.